I still remember the day I started lying to my husband. It wasn't meant to be something serious. It wasn't even supposed to matter. But one small lie has a way of growing until it swallows everything you once cared about. My name is Evelyn Carter, and I've been married to James for 7 years. He's the kind of man every woman says she wants. Loyal, patient, thoughtful. When I met him, he had this quiet confidence, the kind that made me feel safe. Back then, I thought love was supposed to feel like safety. I never realized how easily safety can turn into silence. We had a good life. A beautiful home, decent jobs, a marriage that people called solid. But somewhere along the way, something changed. Maybe it was routine, or maybe it was me. Every morning felt the same: coffee, work, dinner, sleep. The kind of life people say is peaceful, but to me, it started to feel empty. That's when Michael Adams joined our company. He was younger, energetic, charming in that reckless way men sometimes are when they have nothing to lose. At first, I barely noticed him. He was just another coworker.
But he noticed me.
He complimented the way I presented in meetings, laughed at my sarcastic remarks, and looked at me like I was someone exciting, not someone predictable. For a woman who'd been invisible for months, that look felt intoxicating. I didn't plan to cross any line. I told myself I just enjoyed the attention. It was harmless, right? Coffee breaks turned into late-night project discussions. Texts became personal. He'd say things like, "You're not like the others here," or "James must be the luckiest guy alive." I laughed them off, but inside, I liked hearing it. I liked feeling wanted again. It all came to a head around Valentine's Day. Normally, James and I would go out for dinner. But that year, he'd been working long hours, barely speaking, and I was convinced he'd forgotten. So when Michael asked if I wanted to join him for dinner as friends, I didn't say no. I lied to James. I told him I had to stay late at the office. He didn't question it. He never did. He trusted me completely. That trust, I realize now, was the cruelest thing to betray. Michael made a reservation at the Garden Bistro, the same restaurant where James had proposed to me. When I walked in and saw the candles and familiar decor, guilt prickled at the back of my neck. But when Michael smiled, holding out a glass of wine, I pushed it down. I told myself it was just dinner. Except it wasn't. By dessert, we were laughing like teenagers. He told me he couldn't believe how easy it felt being around me. I remember saying something stupid like, maybe that's because we both needed a break from reality. He looked straight into my eyes and whispered, "You deserve more than what you've settled for." When he kissed me, I didn't pull away. It was brief, soft, and terrifyingly electric. For the first time in years, my heart raced. For one foolish moment, I felt alive again. The next morning, guilt hit like a hangover. I couldn't even look James in the eye. He greeted me with his usual gentle smile and handed me a small gift box. Inside was a silver necklace. "Happy Valentine's Day," he said quietly. "I thought you'd like this." I did like it, and that made it worse. I kissed him, told him I loved it, and felt the lie burn in my throat. I told myself I'd end whatever had started with Michael before it went any further. But that night, while I was cleaning up the kitchen, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Michael. "Can't stop thinking about last night." I should have ignored it. I didn't. A few hours later, James was scrolling through his phone. I noticed him pause, his thumb hovering over the screen.
He didn't say anything.
Just smiled faintly, as if at some private joke. Then he got up, went to the kitchen, and came back eating slices of mango. I froze. I'm allergic to mango. Everyone who knows me knows that. James never even kept them in the house. He caught my stare and said calmly, "Don't worry, I'll keep my distance. Wouldn't want you to get a reaction." It wasn't anger in his voice, it was something worse. It was indifference. I tried to speak, but he walked past me, his expression unreadable. That night, when I went to bed, he stayed on the couch. The silence between us was unbearable. The next morning I tried to act normal. I made breakfast, packed his bag, tried to talk. He barely responded. When he finally spoke, it was to tell me his supervisor had offered him a promotion again, the same one he'd declined years ago because it required constant travel. He looked at me across the table and said, "I think I'm going to take it this time." Something inside me cracked. "James, we can talk about this. You don't have to leave." He gave a small, humorless laugh. "You left long before I did, Evelyn." He left for work soon after, and for the first time in my life, I realized I might have lost him for good. I tried to fix it the only way I knew how, pretending everything was fine. But pretending can only take you so far. A few days later, a coworker sent me a message. "You might want to check Michael's status." When I opened it, my blood ran cold. He had posted a photo from Valentine's night, him and me, laughing over wine. His caption read, "Only a caring sister knows how to spoil someone." The picture showed me wearing the same necklace James had given me that morning. Within an hour, people were talking, whispering, staring. That evening, James came home earlier than usual. He looked calm.
Too calm.
I tried to start a conversation about the picture. He interrupted. "Don't bother." He sat on the couch and stared at the floor for a long moment before speaking again. "I saw it already. The restaurant owner sent me a message. Said it was nice to see us there. Told me the mango cake was great." I felt sick. He looked up at me, his eyes cold and clear. "Did you enjoy the mango cake, Evelyn?" "I didn't eat." "I know," he said softly. "I know you didn't." The quiet that followed was unbearable. He stood, walked to our bedroom, and said without turning around, "I'll sleep somewhere else tonight." When the door shut, I felt the first real sting of consequence. For the next few days, I avoided Michael. But guilt and chaos have a way of colliding. One night, when I was leaving the office late, he showed up near my car. "You're avoiding me," he said. "I'm married, Michael," I told him firmly. He smirked. "You weren't saying that when you kissed me." "Don't," I snapped. "You've done enough damage." He shrugged. "James was never going to make you happy. I did you a favor." I walked away before I could say something cruel. When I got home, James wasn't there. His closet was half empty. A note sat on the table. "Leaving for New York on Monday. The keys are on the counter." That was it. No goodbye, no anger, no love. Just a quiet ending to what used to be everything. I sat down on the floor and cried until there was nothing left to cry. I wanted to tell him that I didn't mean for any of it to happen. That it was a mistake. That it was loneliness, not love. But what difference did it make now? The next morning, I saw him briefly in the driveway as he loaded his car. I ran outside, still in my robe, shouting his name. He stopped but didn't turn around. "James, please," I begged. "Just talk to me," he said quietly. "There's nothing left to say, Evelyn. You made your choice." "I didn't choose him," I cried. He looked over his shoulder, his expression tired, wounded.
"No.
You just didn't choose me." Then he got in the car and drove away. I stood there in the cold, barefoot on the concrete, watching the man I had built my life with disappear down the street. That was the day I finally understood what real silence felt like. I had thought I was bored of peace. I hadn't realized peace only feels boring until you lose it. And once you do, you'd give anything to get it back. After James drove away, I stood in the driveway for a long time. The air was cold, the sky gray, and my heart felt like it had stopped moving with the world. I wanted to believe he'd come back. Maybe he just needed time. That's what I told myself as I watched his car disappear down the road. But deep down, I knew something had changed forever.
I didn't eat that day.
I didn't sleep that night. Every sound in the house reminded me of him. The creak in the hallway, the kettle whistle, even the faint ticking of the clock. Everything felt emptier without his quiet presence filling the silence. I sent him a message the next morning. Just one. "Please talk to me." He didn't reply. The next day, I sent another. "I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Please let me explain." Again, nothing. By the third day, he blocked me. I sat on the kitchen floor with my phone in my hand, staring at the message not delivered sign, and felt a wave of panic I couldn't describe. I had never seen James angry. Not once in 7 years. But now, it was like he'd erased me completely. At work, people had already started talking. Whispers followed me wherever I went. It didn't take long for me to find out why. A coworker pulled me aside, hesitant, and said, "Evelyn, I think you should see this." She handed me her phone. There on her screen was a group chat. Screenshots. Messages. It was Michael. He had been bragging.
About me.
About Valentine's night. About how he'd stolen a married woman from her boring husband. The photos were there too. The same ones from the restaurant. Me laughing, leaning close, the necklace visible against my skin. I felt my stomach twist. The air left my lungs. I went straight to Michael's office, shaking with anger. He was sitting at his desk, feet up, scrolling on his phone like nothing had happened. "What the hell did you do?" I snapped. He looked up, amused. "What are you talking about? You posted those pictures. You told people. How could you be that stupid?" He shrugged. "Relax. It's not like I said your name." "You didn't have to," I said, my voice trembling. "Everyone knows." He smirked. "You didn't seem to mind when you were kissing me." The slap came before I even realized I'd raised my hand. The sound echoed in the small room. He stared at me, stunned, one hand on his cheek. I turned and walked out, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my bag. That afternoon, HR called me in. They said there had been concerns about professionalism. I knew what that meant. I denied everything, but my voice cracked halfway through. I could tell they didn't believe me. By the time I got home, I was ready to collapse. My phone was filled with missed calls from my mother, my father, even my younger sister. They'd all received the same thing. An email. It was from James. Subject: The truth about Evelyn. I opened it, my hands trembling. It wasn't angry or vengeful. It was organized, polite, devastating. He'd written about how he'd found out, how long he'd stayed silent, how he couldn't live in a marriage built on lies. He attached screenshots of messages, photos, even the restaurant receipt. The final line read, "I hope she finds whatever it was she was looking for. I just know it wasn't me." My mother called, crying. "Evelyn, what did you do? James sent this to everyone."
I didn't know what to say.
I just sat there, listening to her voice fade as guilt drowned out everything else. That night, I tried calling him again. Of course, he didn't answer. I wanted to scream, to beg, to undo everything, but what do you say when you've already destroyed someone who only ever loved you? Days turned into weeks. My world became smaller, just work and silence. The looks people gave me, the pity in their eyes, the whispering that stopped when I walked by, it all ate away at me. Michael still texted sometimes. He'd write things like, "Don't worry, he'll calm down," or "You, and I can start over." Every time, I deleted the messages. I couldn't stand to see his name anymore. One evening, he showed up outside my apartment. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair messy. He looked different, desperate. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." I opened the door just enough to see him clearly, but didn't invite him in. "You ruined everything," I said quietly. He laughed bitterly. "I ruined everything? You're the one who came to me. You said you were lonely." I said. But I never meant to destroy my life over it. He leaned against the wall, shaking his head. "James doesn't deserve you. He never did." I almost laughed. "Michael, you don't even know what love is." He pushed off the wall, angry now. "You think he'll ever take you back? He's gone, Eve. You're just pretending you still have a chance." He walked away after that, and for a second, I thought it was over. But 2 nights later, he called again, slurring his words, saying things that made my skin crawl. That's when I changed my number. For a while, things went quiet. I thought maybe I could start over, rebuild what little dignity I had left. But James wasn't finished. He hadn't just told our families. He'd told my company. He'd told mutual friends. It wasn't revenge. It was exposure, pure, calculated truth. The world I'd lived in with him, the safe, gentle life I'd once found boring, was now gone, replaced by shame that followed me everywhere. I kept hoping he'd call, that he'd at least yell, or cry, or give me something to hold on to. But there was nothing. Not even hate. Just silence. It's strange, the things you remember when your life is falling apart. I remembered how James used to hum in the kitchen when he made coffee, how he always warmed the car before I got in on winter mornings, how he'd ask if I wanted the side of the bed closer to the window because he knew I liked the morning light. Little things I'd stopped noticing because I thought I wanted more. I finally understood that more doesn't always mean better. Sometimes it just means emptier. A few months passed. I tried therapy. It helped me understand things, but it didn't make the pain go away. Then one evening, after work, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Evelyn," a familiar voice said quietly. My heart stopped. "James?" There was a pause, then he said, "Yeah, I just wanted to tell you. I'm moving to Argentina. It's part of the new position. I won't be coming back. James, please. I'll send the divorce papers next week. Sign them and send them to my office." He sounded calm, detached, like he was talking to a stranger. I started crying. "Please, James, don't do this. I'll do anything. Please, I just want one more chance." There was silence on the line. Then a soft laugh, tired, not cruel. "You're always so sure I'll forgive you," he said. "But maybe you never considered that I don't love you anymore." The call ended, and I dropped the phone. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the wall. There's a kind of pain that doesn't make you scream. It just empties you out until you're nothing but regret. After that, I stopped hoping. I signed the papers when they arrived. I mailed them back without a note. But closure never came. My mother told me James was doing well, traveling, meeting new people, thriving. She said it kindly, but each word cut like glass. I saw pictures of him online once, standing in front of a vineyard, smiling, looking free. I wanted to be happy for him. I really did. But mostly I just wanted to disappear. Michael tried reaching out again a few times, but I ignored him. Eventually he stopped. I thought that was the end of it. But one night, months later, my phone buzzed again. My heart jumped when I saw James's name, but it wasn't him. It was his mother. She said she'd heard I wasn't doing well, that James had asked about me, just once in passing.
She said he sounded sad.
That tiny spark of hope was enough to make me cry again, even though I knew it didn't change anything. Sometimes love doesn't end with hate. Sometimes it ends with silence, and that silence is louder than anything you've ever heard. I used to think I lost James the night he found out. But now I know I lost him much earlier. The moment I stopped being grateful for him, the moment I thought excitement mattered more than peace. By the time I realized what I'd done, he was already gone. When the papers were signed and sent, I thought that would be the end of it. I thought once James was officially gone, the pain would quiet down, and I could start breathing again. But I was wrong. I didn't just lose a husband. I lost the version of myself that existed when he loved me. The days after the divorce blurred together. I went to work, came home, and slept for hours I didn't even need. I barely spoke to anyone. My friends had chosen sides, most of them his, and I couldn't blame them. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw someone older, smaller, weaker. Someone I barely recognized. Then one night, while scrolling through my phone, I saw him again. Not in person, just a photo online. James was standing in a sunlit vineyard somewhere in South America, smiling. He looked tan, confident, at peace. The caption read, "New beginnings, new horizons." It should have made me happy for him. Instead, it broke something inside me all over again. I'd thought if I couldn't have him, the least I could do was believe he wasn't happy without me. But seeing that picture proved otherwise.
He had moved on.
And I was still here, stuck in the ruins I'd built with my own hands. I started drinking wine alone at night. It wasn't because I liked it. I just wanted to remember what it felt like to sit across from someone who looked at me with warmth. I'd stare at the empty chair across the table and pretend he was still there. It didn't work. Weeks later, my mother called. She said James's company had been mentioned in the news. There'd been an earthquake warning in Japan, and flights were grounded. Apparently, he was there for a business conference. For a second, I couldn't breathe. I knew I had no right to worry about him anymore, but the thought of something happening to him made me feel sick. That night, I lay awake replaying every mistake I'd made, every lie, every chance I'd had to stop before things got worse. If something happened to him before I could tell him how sorry I was, I didn't know how I'd live with myself. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I bought a ticket to Japan. I told myself I was doing it to make sure he was safe. But deep down, I think I was chasing a ghost, one last chance to see him, to say what I should have said long ago. The airport was crowded and chaotic, people rushing, crying, panicking about delays. I sat quietly near the window, gripping my passport like it was a lifeline. Halfway through the flight, I remembered our last real trip together. It had been years ago, a weekend road trip to the coast. We'd argued about directions, got lost twice, and ended up in a tiny motel with flickering lights. But it had been perfect. He'd laughed so much that night. He'd kissed me under the broken neon sign and said, "As long as we're together, I don't care where we end up." I had forgotten that version of him. The one who believed in us even when things weren't perfect. When the plane landed, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. The city was buzzing despite the tension. People moving fast, announcements echoing in Japanese and English, everyone trying to find someone. I turned on my phone as soon as I could. It lit up with one missed call, an international number I didn't recognize.
My heart jumped.
I dialed it back, but no one answered. I tried again. Still nothing. The earthquake warning had turned into a minor tremor by the time I reached the hotel. James was fine. His company had confirmed it online. All employees are safe. He was safe. That should have been enough. But it wasn't. I went to the hotel lobby and asked if they had a guest named James Carter. The woman behind the desk checked, then nodded. Yes, he checked out 2 days ago. He flew home. For a long time, I just stood there staring at her. I wanted to cry, laugh, scream, anything. He had already gone home. By the time I finally made it back to my hotel room, my body felt like it was made of lead. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how many chances life gives you to do the right thing before it stops giving them at all. I'd spent months trying to fix things, but maybe the truth was simple. Some things can't be fixed. The next morning, I left for the airport. I never made it. The cab was turning through an intersection when a truck ran the light. There was a flash of white, a deafening sound, and then everything went dark. When I woke up, I was in a hospital. My body ached everywhere. There were tubes in my arm and a brace around my leg. The nurse told me I was lucky to be alive. Lucky. It didn't feel like luck. It felt like punishment. I asked if anyone had contacted my family. She nodded. Your parents are on their way. What about, I paused. James Carter. Did anyone call him?
She shook her head.
There's no record of that name. I looked away, my chest tightening. Of course there wasn't. He wasn't my husband anymore. A few days later, my mother arrived. She looked older than I remembered. Worry had carved new lines into her face. She sat beside my bed, holding my hand. James knows, she said softly. He paid for part of your hospital bills. I turned my head, tears filling my eyes. He did. She nodded. He didn't come in. He just spoke to the doctors and left. That was James. Always kind, even when he didn't have to be. He hadn't forgiven me. But he hadn't stopped being the man I fell in love with either. I stayed in the hospital for weeks. The doctors said my leg would take time to heal. Maybe months. I didn't care. Physical pain was easy. It had an end date. Emotional pain didn't. When I was finally discharged, I went back home. The apartment felt emptier than ever. I tried to go back to work, but HR politely suggested I take an indefinite leave. So I stayed home. I cleaned. I cooked meals I didn't eat. I tried to read, to sleep, to forget. Nothing worked. Sometimes, late at night, I'd play the voicemails James had left me years ago. Little things like, pick up milk, or don't forget your scarf. I'd listen to his voice and pretend he was still part of my life. But pretending doesn't change the truth. A few months later, my mother called again. Her voice was hesitant. Evelyn, James came home for the holidays. I froze. He's back. Yes, she said. He's doing well. He looks happy. That word felt like a blade. I asked if he mentioned me.
She paused.
He said he hopes you're doing better. That was it.
He didn't hate me.
He didn't love me. I was just someone he used to know. On New Year's Eve, I went to his parents' house.
I don't even know why.
Maybe I just wanted to see him one last time. When he opened the door, he looked surprised and tired. "Evelyn," he said quietly, "why are you here?" Tears burned my eyes. Every year we watched fireworks together. I just wanted. He sighed. "You shouldn't have come." "James, please," I whispered. "I can't live without you." He looked at me for a long moment, his face unreadable. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Don't do this, Evelyn. Seeing you like this, it makes me sick." I felt something inside me die. He closed the door gently. The fireworks outside started a few seconds later, lighting up the sky in colors I couldn't stand to look at. I stood there until the cold seeped into my bones, then walked home alone. That was the last time I saw him. He built a new life after that. A good one. He traveled, worked, laughed. I stayed behind, trying to rebuild mine piece by piece. Now, years later, I live quietly. I still wear the necklace he gave me that last Valentine's Day. Not because I think he'll come back, but because it reminds me of who I used to be and who I became when I forgot what love really meant.
Sometimes I dream about him.
In those dreams, he's still young, smiling, and I'm still someone worth loving. But when I wake up, I know the truth. There's no forgiveness waiting for me. There's no reunion. Just memories and silence. And maybe that's enough punishment for one lifetime.